The terminal was loud in the way airports always were. A relentless symphony of rolling luggage, distant announcements, and the frantic energy of people rushing toward something or running from it. Claire Donovan was somewhere in between. She adjusted the strap of her carry-on and glanced at the departure board. Gate 14. Flight to Denver. Boarding in 40 minutes. She exhaled slowly, grateful for the small mercy of time. The last 6 months had been a slow unraveling, a startup that burned through its funding, a lease she couldn't renew, and a mother back in Colorado who kept calling to say, "Honey, just come home." So here she was, 32 years old, carrying everything important in one bag and heading back to the city. She'd fled at 24 with big dreams and even bigger confidence. She found a seat near the gate, tucked her bag between her feet, and opened her laptop. Work. She could always hide in work. She had 3 freelance articles due and zero motivation to write any of them. But the alternative was sitting alone with her thoughts. And that was a luxury she couldn't afford right now. The coffee line across the terminal caught her eye. She needed caffeine more than she needed self-pity. She stood, stretched, and walked toward the small cafe kiosk near Gate 12. The line was short, just a few people. She fell in behind a tall man in a charcoal gray suit. His back to her, a phone pressed to his ear. Something about the way he stood, shoulders straight, one hand in his pocket. That particular angle of his jaw when he turned slightly to glance at the menu board made the air leave her lungs. No. She told herself it wasn't him. It couldn't be. People had similar builds, similar postures, similar. He turned around. Dark eyes. A jaw sharper than she remembered. The faintest scar above his left eyebrow from a mountain biking accident she had personally driven him to the ER for 10 years ago. Ethan Cole. He saw her at the exact same moment. For one suspended, terrible second, neither of them moved. Then his phone call apparently ended on its own. Because he slowly lowered the device and stared at her with an expression she couldn't read, not quite surprise, not quite warmth, not quite anything she expected. Claire, her name in his voice. God. It still had the same weight. Ethan. She managed a smile that she hoped looked casual. Hi. Hi, he said. They stood there. The barista called for the next customer and Ethan stepped up automatically. Ordered without looking at the menu, black coffee, no sugar. Same as always, and then looked back at her as she stepped up beside him. What can I get you? The barista asked. Oat milk latte, please. Medium. She fumbled with her card. Ethan was already paying. I've got it, he said quietly. You don't have to. I know. He tapped his card anyway. They moved to the pickup end of the counter and stood in the particular silence of two people who once knew everything about each other and now know almost nothing. You look well, he said finally. You look, she stopped herself. He looked extraordinary. The kind of well that money did to a person when it arrived alongside discipline. The suit was impeccable. The watch on his wrist was understated. But the kind of understated that cost more than her last year's salary. You look good too, she finished. He almost smiled. Almost. Where are you headed? Denver. Back to my mom's for a while. She hated how that sounded. She lifted her chin slightly. You. I was just in Denver. Flew back this morning for a meeting. He paused. Heading to New York now. New York. Of course. Are you living in New York now? She asked. Mostly. We have offices in 4 cities. He said it the way people say things when they're used to saying them, casually. Without performance. We have offices in 4 cities. Like it was nothing. I heard you started a company, she said carefully. A few years ago, yeah. She'd done more than hear it. She'd read the Forbes article. 30 under 35, the disruptors, and seen his face on the screen of her laptop at 2 a.m. in her tiny Brooklyn apartment, feeling something she refused to name. Ethan Cole, founder and CEO of Veltrix, a logistics AI company now valued at $4.2 billion. The article had called him relentlessly focused and notoriously private. She remembered a boy who cried at the end of Interstellar and made her pancakes every Sunday morning in a cramped apartment in Chicago, who used to carry a notebook everywhere because he said he thought better with a pen in his hand. More than a company, she said. Veltrix. I read about it. Something shifted in his face. A brief crack in the composed exterior. Yeah. The barista slid their drinks across the counter. They both reached at the same moment, and his hand brushed hers. She pulled back. He handed her the latte without comment. They walked out of the coffee line together without deciding to. Can I sit with you for a few minutes? He asked. My flight doesn't board for another hour. She should say no. She knew she should say no. The kind thing, the safe thing, would be to say nice running into you and walk back to Gate 14 and spend the next 40 minutes staring at a blank document. Sure, she said. They found 2 seats near a window overlooking the tarmac. Gray afternoon light. Planes moving in slow mechanical ballet. For a while they just sat there, with their coffees and the noise of the terminal pressing around them like a held breath. Why didn't you ever reach out? He asked. Not accusatory. Just quiet. The kind of question that had been waiting in a drawer for years. She wrapped both hands around her cup. I thought you needed the space. You were building something. I didn't want to be, she searched for the word. An interruption. He was quiet for a moment. I wasn't building anything when you left, Claire. I was just angry. I know. I spent the first year after you left trying to prove something. He looked out at the tarmac. I'm not sure I even know who I was trying to prove it to. Did it work? She asked softly. He turned to look at her. Define work. The silence between them shifted. Something in it became heavier, but not unpleasant. The kind of weight that meant this matters. You seem happy, she said. Or at least, successful. Those aren't always the same thing. She looked at him. The composure was still there, but underneath it, she could see something she recognized. The same restlessness that had lived in him at 25. The same searching quality in his eyes that had made her fall in love with him in the first place. Money hadn't changed that. It had just given it a better suit to wear. Why did you never call me? She asked, turning it back. After the first year. After the anger. He looked down at his coffee. Because by the time I wasn't angry anymore, I was too proud. A beat. And then the company took off and every day got more complicated. And it became easier to just not open old things. Old things, she repeated. You know what I mean. I do. She paused. I stayed in New York for 7 years. Ethan. I used to walk past the coffee shop on Bleecker and think about whether I'd run into you. I moved to the west side. A ghost of a smile. You were on the east side. I was on the east side. He laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polished, professional laugh of someone used to boardrooms. It was the laugh she remembered, slightly surprised. Like laughter had sneaked up on him from behind. It undid something in her chest. Of course we were, he said. An announcement crackled overhead. Flight 447 to Denver now boarding Zone A. She checked her ticket. Zone B. A few more minutes. Tell me something true, he said suddenly. She looked at him. It was something he used to say to her, years ago, when he wanted to cut past the pleasantries. Tell me something true. She'd forgotten that until right this second. I'm scared, she said. I'm going home. Because things didn't work out. And I'm terrified that means I failed. She paused. Your turn. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm lonely, he said. I have everything I worked for and I am very, very lonely. She held his gaze. The noise of the airport continued around them, indifferent and constant. Zone B now boarding for Denver. She stood slowly. He stood with her, the automatic politeness of a man who'd been raised right. Even before the wealth had arrived. She picked up her bag and they walked toward the gate together without speaking. At the mouth of the jetway she stopped and turned to face him. I'm going to be in Denver for at least a month, she said. Maybe longer. He nodded. Something careful and hopeful moved across his face. Veltrix has an office in Denver, he said. I'm usually there once a month. I know, she said. I read the article. He smiled then, a full, unguarded smile. The one she had once considered entirely hers. Claire Donovan, he said quietly. You read the whole article. I read all of them, she admitted. And was rewarded with the look on his face, the slight widening of his eyes. The way the smile held. She stepped toward the jetway. Stopped once more. Looked back at him over her shoulder. Text me when you land in New York, she said. So I know you got there safe. Like old times. He reached into his jacket and held out his phone. She typed in her number, the same number. Unchanged for 10 years, and handed it back. His eyes moved from the screen to her face. Like old times, he agreed. She walked down the jetway. She didn't look back again. She didn't need to. Because somewhere behind her, she heard the soft sound of his phone, a single tap. And then her own phone buzzed in her jacket pocket. She smiled. She pulled it out. A message. No name yet, just a number she didn't have saved but recognized instantly. I'll text you when I land. Don't go falling for anyone in Denver before I get there. She laughed, a real one. Bright and sudden. And a woman ahead of her in the jetway turned around with a curious look. Claire shook her head. Nothing. Sorry. She kept walking. The phone warm in her hand. Something she hadn't felt in months spreading quietly through her chest. Not success. Not arrival. Not the crossing off of a goal. Just the fragile, terrifying, wonderful possibility of something beginning again.